Hello and welcome to Amaryllis Art. Today I'm going to talk about how changing from Photoshop to ClipStudioPaint has really upgraded my comics and really revolutionized how I do them. The first comic I started working on in ClipStudioPaint was this one in the sports bar. I had heard from I mentioned her in the last video, Lavender Town, about ClipStudioPaint and how it had been an easy transition for her from moving from Photoshop to Clip Studio. Had been really easy transition and how it had really felt like a tool built for artists. So out of curiosity I decided to check it out, and I did a lot of reading on their website and actually got really excited by what I read. I got so excited that I almost wanted to try downloading and using the program right then and there, but it was like 2 a.m. at night, so I had to put down my phone and just go to sleep. So the next day, as soon as I got up, I downloaded the software and tried it out. If you sign up for the monthly payment program, they'll give you about 3 free months. They'll give you about 3 free months in which you can use the software before you have to start paying for it. But if you just plan on buying the software outright, which is what I plan on doing, you get 1 month for free. So far I've been using it for maybe 2 weeks, and I have to say it's been really good and really efficient in how it's it's really made me a lot more productive in my workflow. It has tools that are specifically for comics, which make it really convenient for me, since mostly, I use Photoshop 50-50% for making comics and for making illustrations. I don't really use it at all for photo manipulation, which is really what it's intended for, and you can kind of tell based on how it's built that it's really built for photos. So I was kind of underutilizing it in that I only used it for digital painting. But ClipStudioPaint has really been something that I can use like just for painting, and it feels like it's just for painting and drawing. So probably one of my first initial excitements from using ClipStudioPaint was how easy it is to draw a speech bubble. I think it's the B key, I don't remember for sure, but to draw the speech bubble before I had to draw an outline of a speech bubble, draw the tail on it, and then use the fill bucket to fill in the white background. And that can be a little fussy depending on if you rasterize the text or not. I won't get into layers discussion. But this tool in ClipStudioPaint, you just draw a circle and it comes pre-filled in with a white background, and then you can draw the tail on it, and as opposed to having to go in and erase the tail to make sure it meets up with the lines of the bubble, it's got some sort of AI capability in there that automatically connects the lines together and erases the unnecessary portion, which is fantastic and makes it really easy and a lot faster for me. Also, I don't have to worry about coloring around the speech bubble and worrying about color coming into the speech bubble based on my flats, just because it's already white, it's already there. So the other thing I really like about it is the fill tool, the Lasso fill tool. I really like the Lasso fill tool because it makes cell shading really quick and easy. And I didn't do a lot of cell shading before, just because it didn't always look right and I had to learn how to do it. So that's partly my growth as an artist that's made it easier for me to do it. But the cell shading with the fill Lasso tool, you take it and as if you were using the normal Lasso tool in Photoshop, you draw where you want the shadow to be on your picture, and then it fills it in with the color that you have selected in your color wheel, which is really convenient. But yeah, with Photoshop, I would have to use the Lasso tool, and then I have to grab my fill tool, grab my paint bucket, and then fill it in. But it's a lot quicker. A few extra clicks saved really saves me a lot of time overall, and I have to say that I really appreciate that in ClipStudioPaint. Something that I don't like too much about ClipStudioPaint is that I do have to go back and forth when I'm using a select tool. If I want to do the rectangular marquee, I have to click in a little submenu. If I want to do a lasso fill, then I have to go and click again, which it slows me down a little bit. I'm not sure if there's a shortcut into making that faster, but I also dislike having to switch between just a freehand lasso and then a polyline tool. that does slow me down a bit, because it used to be pretty fast in Photoshop, where I just press Alt to make it straight lines, make it a polyline lasso as opposed to just a freehand lasso. So I'm sure that there's a way to do it. I just need to take the time to look it up. In terms of like line art, I talked about this in my previous video, where doing the line art in just straight black can make a drawing look a little harsher. And that's something that I don't mind too much for my comics, but for my illustrations, it's really nice to have the layer that I can just right click on it, go to layer selection, and then do clip to layer below. So it's a little inconvenient to have it just connected to the layer below rather than just any old layer. But I do like that it's there and that it's pretty easy to find. Something else I like about ClipStudioPaint is that they have a massive online marketplace of just various brushes you can use. Brushes and patterns and 3D models, most of which I haven't tapped into yet. I've only ever used the brushes in the asset store that they have. But I have to say that for the free brushes that they offer, it's really impressive, the selection that you can get without ever spending any money besides just buying Clip Studio. That really impressed me when I got into it, because for Photoshop brushes, you have to kind of look far and wide to find something, and then you generally have to buy it, which I guess makes sense because Photoshop is a pretty expensive tool. So if somebody knows how to make brushes, you want to compensate them for their time and learning how to make it and making a good brush set. And I can see wanting to buy brushes for Clip Studio. There are some brushes that you do buy money for, you do have to spend money on to get, and I think that's great to have the option to have maybe cheesier free brushes offered versus some really nice professionally made ones. And I had some free coins that I got for installing the software, so I spent those on a really nice brush that's very similar to acrylic painting that I really like for colors. In terms of my workflow for building the comics, I have to say that it is a little different now. I used to do the Lasso tool. I used to use the Lasso tool to create the flats, where I would just range select an area and then do a paint fill into that in Photoshop. But in ClipStudioPaint, it's a lot faster with the paint bucket fill tool that they have. I can just kind of click into it and get the flat color filled in almost immediately. Now, this is something that I think in Photoshop I could have done before, but I didn't know the settings, because if you've used Photoshop, you know that settings are generally buried like a mile deep into any menu. And also they have unintuitive, complicated names that make you feel like you have to have a rocket science degree to understand some of the terms they use. Maybe that's just my personal experience, but I had a really hard time figuring out how to use the paint bucket tool as anything other than just fill the entire layer tool without regards for where the lines are. I did, like, just as I switched over to ClipStudioPaint, figure out that there was a little checkbox up at the very top that had some, I can't even remember the name, it was some very strange, complex term to describe filling in only inside of the lines in Photoshop, and it's probably speaking to how vague of a term they use that I can't even remember what it was called when I can remember the terms for almost everything else in Clip Studio. So once I figured that out, it was kind of like, oh, I can't believe I've taken this long to discover how to do this. But even though I did learn how to change that to make it something I could do a little faster in Photoshop, it didn't make much of a difference when compared to the other pros of using Clip Studio. I think the biggest pro for Clip Studio for me is actually the overall cost of the software. So they have like 3 different levels of software. They have what's it called? They've got Pro, like something that's like Elite, and then they have one level below Pro. They have 3 levels. They have one level that usually is only available with other software packages, or that you could get with like a Wacom tablet or something. They've got the Pro layer, which is only $50, and then they've got their last one, which is $220, which has a lot of features for like not even $300, which is really amazing. And eventually I think I will upgrade to the third most expensive package, but it's really nice to have an available package for like $50 that has pretty much everything I need to get rolling, and that I can kind of skip around to inconvenient bits. For instance, pages and comics is something that isn't provided in the $50 package. But it's something that I don't think is actually going to be a huge drawback for me, since I'm used to working in Photoshop, which isn't really made for photo or for comic creators. When you buy an Adobe Photoshop package, they have a package for $10 a month where you get Adobe Photoshop, you get Lightroom, and then you get access to like Adobe XD, Fuse, and Adobe Portfolio. And all of those, you know, for $10 a month, I would say that's pretty good. But for like after 5 months of buying the Adobe package, I could own ClipStudioPaint and never have to pay for it again, which I think is something that's definitely something I need to consider, since I'm going full-time into art and I want to really make it my career, but I don't have a lot of capital to start up with, and I'm also not making a lot of sales initially, which is fine. You know, it takes a lot of time to build up, but it's good to not have to spend a lot of money outright when you're just getting started. So I think that ClipStudioPaint is fantastic for beginning creators in that respect. So I guess long story short, I've spent long enough babbling now. Long story short, if you want to get into digital art but you're not sure what software package to check out, you can, I believe Adobe has like a 1-week trial period that you can try out Photoshop. You can give Photoshop a try, see if it meshes with how you work. But I would strongly urge you to give the 30-month trial period of ClipStudioPaint a try, because it has everything that Photoshop has for artists, plus a little more. So yeah, if you're planning on just doing digital art and not really any photo manipulation, check out ClipStudioPaint. I think it's definitely worth the money, and I've already gotten a lot of use out of it, and I'm not even out of my trial period yet. It's really seriously improved how I work and how good my comics look, and it's given me the ability to draw even nicer looking comics, I think. So yeah, thanks for listening. I know this has been kind of a long-winded rant, but thanks for bearing with me. I'll see you guys next time. If you liked my work in this video, please check out my portfolio at amaryllisart.com. If you'd like to continue to support videos like this, you can help by donating to me on Ko-fi or Patreon. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.